Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome back to Everspace. Now today I want to talk about the latest update for the game, which brings the game to version 0.7. And this is actually a significant step towards the next release of the game, which is going to be version 1. And that's going to bring the game out of early access and into the full release schedule, and it's going to include a lot of new content. It will also allow players to experience the game's full story. Now version 1 will arrive on the 26th of May. For now though, we're still in early access, although coming towards the end of it. So let's have a look at some of the new features that are in 0.7. So what does it include? Well, first up is the introduction of the Ancients. This is a race of beings which have left their traces of their technology all around the galaxy, and you can come across this from time to time in the form of ruins. Now when you interact with these ruins, they can act as shortcuts, allowing you to skip areas on your journey. So that's going to be a pretty nice feature. As you know, it can take a long time travelling from zone to zone or sector to sector, and in some cases they can be particularly dangerous. So gaining the option to skip some of these areas is going to be very nice indeed. Now at the moment I haven't had a chance to come across any of these ruins. As you can see here, I'm actually fighting a Corvette at the moment. I believe these were introduced relatively recently. I think they come out in one of the more recent updates, but this is the first time I've actually come across one. And that's despite them being in the game now for quite a long time, but a very enjoyable fight there. It got pretty intense. Likewise, I don't know whether or not I'm going to come across any ancient ruins anytime soon, but nonetheless it's something I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to do another playthrough, maybe a little bit at the end of this video, but if not I'll be releasing another video later on, and hopefully we'll find some of them then. Now some of the other things that are going to be included, or that are included rather, in 0.7 are Glyphs, and these can also be found at the ruins, and they're similar to subroutines that were introduced earlier in the game. However, Glyphs have a much more dramatic effect on your gameplay, and they could perhaps be considered far more powerful than the previous subroutines. Now fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately depending on how you look at this, obtaining the Glyphs is not going to be an easy feat, and again that's something we're going to have a look at in another video. Very much looking forward to getting to grips with that. Now here you can see I'm in first person mode, and there's something nice and new here. That's right, it's the heads up display. Now these HUDs are actually fully functional, and this is rather interesting. Everspace actually features 3 distinct player ships. You have the Interceptor, the Scout and the Gunship. Now in my videos I normally play as the Interceptor, but you will have seen in the past I have actually played with the Scout and the Gunship as well. Now I do like the Scout, it's a nice fast ship and it does have some stealth capabilities. The Gunship on the other hand is very powerful, can do significant amounts of damage, but I find it a little bit too slow and immaneuverable for my type of play style, so it's a ship I tend to avoid. However, having 3 ships did pose a little bit of a problem when it comes to implementing the heads-up display, because it meant that the developers basically needed to create 3 types of HUDs. Now do keep in mind the game has always had UIs that you can use. You can see that right now when you're in third-person mode, but what's new is the fact that all this information now displays inside the ship when you're in the cockpit, and that's all fully functional as from 0.7. Now unfortunately the cockpits are still missing a player avatar, so the seats remain empty for the moment and there's no hands on the controls when it comes to interacting, but it is making playing inside the cockpits much more interesting. You can see that here, actually flying around is far more immersive. The trade-off though is that you don't have quite so much as situational awareness as you do from a third-person mode. At any rate, you can quickly switch between all the modes. You simply press the V key by default and that will switch you between a first-person cockpit mode here. There's also a first-person mode without the cockpit, and then you can go straight to third-person mode, but I really am starting to like this. Now Everspace does come with a VR mode as well, although that's still in construction. I guess you could call it in beta as it were, but it's something I'm very keen to try out, especially when you look at these types of environments, been inside structures such as this massive asteroid here, as well as the rather large space stations that you've seen in previous videos. I'm sure will feel really nice when you're inside VR, although I'd like to see again a player avatar when it comes to using VR. Being a disembodied floating camera isn't always the best of options, but perhaps that's something that's going to come in version 1 of the game. Now I don't know about any of you, but I have noticed a slight few frame rate issues with the latest update. It's by no means constantly present, but it does happen sometimes when I'm panning rapidly to the left or the right. I'm wondering if it's a driver issue, but the thing is I haven't updated my drivers for a few weeks. So maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. But at the moment, I certainly don't want to jump on the game and accuse it for causing the bad frame rates, because it could be a few other things yet. It's something I'll let you know in an upcoming video when I've had a chance to try everything out a little bit more. Now, I do want to just mention something very quickly about early access games, and that's the fact that they do receive a lot of flack from the community. And in many respects, that is largely understandable. A lot of games do go into early access and never really seem to come out of them. I do want to mention how basically I feel that Everspace has been immensely successful in terms of early access. It's had a very good development cycle, and with every patch it has significantly improved upon the game, both in terms of stability as well as things like visuals and graphics, and of course the all-important additions to gameplay. If all early access games were handled in the same way that Everspace itself has been developed, then I think the attitude and perception towards early access games would be very, very different. So hats off to Rockfish. You've done an exceptional job with the development of this game since it hit early access, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing version 1 of the game. So that brings us to the end of this video. I will of course be back later on with another playthrough of Everspace, and we get to grips with all the changes that have been introduced in 0.7. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.